What's going on, YouTube? We're back live and reinvigorated for what's gonna be a juicy stretch. And now it's time for motivation with JC. Yep, that's me. I aim to motivate and inspire. Push more people higher. You see the path, you do the work, you get what you desire. Welcome to the islands, man. Yes, yes. All right, guys. So for today's episode, we're in for a real special treat. Really special. I'm really excited about this one. But before we get into the treats, I want to develop our theme today around an anonymous quote. Some people say it's from Regina Brett, and other people say it's from Aristotle. So we'll just say anonymous. And the quote is as follows: choice, not circumstances, determines your success. You know, a lot of times we find ourselves in unforeseen or unexpected circumstances, and we can feel so overwhelmed, and we allow ourselves to become victims of our situations. We allow ourselves to wallow in what is sometimes easy, just to stay down, instead of realizing that we do, in fact, have choices. And one of those choices is to rise above whatever situation we find ourselves in, whether that be good or bad. So right now, right here, today, we're getting ready to introduce to you a marvelous treat. We're going to look at a real life example of someone from a third world country, single parent household, where typically people from the area aren't really expected to do too much, or they don't expect much from themselves. Let's put it like that, because of whatever circumstances that the majority of the population find themselves in. But this person, given her circumstances, has made the choice to be different and make a change than what is expected to be the norm for her life. So right now, it brings me great pleasure to introduce live, all the way from the city of brotherly love, the current transportation outreach coordinator for the Clean Air Council of the city of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, recipient of a full track and field scholarship as a D1 athlete to the University of Minnesota, with a bachelor's degree in environmental science and policy management, a master's degree in land and atmospheric science, an entrepreneur, the ultimate go-getter, Minnesota's all-time program record holder in the outdoor 400-meter race, second all-time in program history in both the outdoor 400 and 600-meter races, a two-time All-American, a four-time NCAA championship qualifier, 3-year captain, 2-time or 1-year assistant head coach, and the list can go on and on. Right now, without further ado, let's introduce to you my cousin and longtime role model, Titania Markland.
Hey everybody. Hey JC, how are you?
Hello, Titania. Everybody clap for Titania. Yeah. Let's invite her to our table, guys. All right, so we're here. It's been a long time coming, but we're glad that we finally were able to get you to come sit here a little bit after Turkey Day, just before Christmas with us.
I'm happy to be here.
No, thank you for being here. Let's get right into it. Let's not waste any time. First of all, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Rested. I'm good. I'm doing good.
Okay. So we wanna get into the topic, and we want to develop this a little bit. We want to talk to the audience, but before we do that, we want to kind of get to know who you are. So who are you, Titania Markland?
I think you just did it just now. You just told them all my my bio, my accomplishments, I guess. But yeah, so to everyone, I am Titania Markland. I am from Jamaica originally. I do reside in Philadelphia at the moment. Yeah, I am I was a track star. I run a lot. I enjoy running. I love the 400 meter. I ran the 800 too. So, I'm all over the place. For indoors, I run the 600. So, that's my like best indoor event. I enjoy that a lot. I think overall though, I enjoyed the 4x4 more than any other event. The team race, I love working with people. I feel like, you know, I can always limit myself sometimes in the sense like, oh, I can't do this or whatever. But when there's people dependent on me, I will always push over my limit. So I love the 4x4 just for that reason. I don't know. We'll get into it, I guess, and you'll know more about me as we get into it. I don't know exactly what to tell you. When the questions are asked, I'll answer them honestly. So we'll go from there. Yeah.
Right. So with that being said, our theme today it comes from a quote called, or it says, choice, not circumstances, determines your success. So we'll start with this before we get into more personal stories. What is your take on that quote? Choice, not circumstance, determines your success.
I think it's a true statement. If you think about it, like let's put two-person in the same pool, right? We have the same circumstances, we have the same environment, everything is the same, right? But then one person becomes successful and the other is not. Why is that? It got to be the choices that one person made, right? Because they had the same circumstances, everything was the same. But maybe in that same position, one person decided to, reach out for help from somebody else, or they decided to, whatever is going on, I'm not going to let it, hold me down or whatever. And then the next person on the other end may be like, oh, it's what I was served, so I'm just going to live it out, or whatever they may terms it. And so, the choices you make, like we can all have the same circumstances and one person could be successful or one person could overcome it versus the next person. So yeah, I believe in that statement. Whoever wrote it or said it, they were wise. It made sense. And the thing about it too is that like as we go through life, we will meet different circumstances. And what choices will we make? I think about things of like, no matter like let's say today, okay, today's Sunday, right? You have persons out there today who have nothing to eat, but what are they gonna do about it? You know what I mean? Like, what are they gonna do about that? And so with that is like what choices they make. Some person may go out and ask for help. Someone may sit there and be like, well, whatever. And so they just do that. And so it's the choices you make despite your circumstance.
And that kind of makes me remember how do you say this thing? It's a quote I used to say in one of my earlier videos. Equal opportunity doesn't always guarantee equal outcome. But you got to determine how hard you're willing to work, what you're willing to do to get the outcome that you desire. So we kind of want you to do us a favor right now. Right now, we kind of want you to paint a picture of where you're from by telling us your childhood. Kind of, we're going to go through the format. The format is you're going to tell us about your childhood. Then you're going to tell us some things that you had to overcome. We want to know what led you into getting into track and field. And at what point in your mind did you determine, hey, I don't want to just, do what is normal, like, just live everyday life and just exist. I want to do more than what I'm capable or than what I'm used to seeing or something like that. Right? Paint us a picture. But before everyone, let's show you this picture. If I can. Can I show you this picture?
I think the background is blocking it.
Yeah, the background is blocking it. There it is. That's kind of
I can see it. Yeah.
That's the governor or the guy who's in charge of Jamaica, Andrew Holness.
That's the prime minister, yeah.
Yeah. Trying to make his way up to Camberwell. And this here is somewhere close to where I think Titania's from. So let us hear her talk and tell us some stories.
Good picture. So I am from St. Mary, our main town is Anata Bay. I'm from a rural community called Georges Zob. Camberwell is like our main, like our post office or whatever. So it's like I am rural to St. Mary, more rural to Anata Bay, and even more rural to Camberwell. So if you think about it, people may say, okay, you're in the forest or you're in the bush, whatever terms that actually resonate with you, think about really rural, and that's where I'm from. Okay. So it's called Georges Zob. I love my community. Every time I go back to Jamaica, I have to be there. Like, I'm not gonna go to Kingston, where everyone thinks of when you say, I'm from Jamaica. Oh, you're from Kingston. No, I'm not from Kingston. So I'm from St. Mary. I am from Anata Bay, Camberwell, Georges Zob. So, the road, the road is the worst thing there. So I think apart from it being very rural, then it's also bad roads, and some places there, I mean, there's abundant water, so that's one good thing. There's always water there because there's rivers, there's streams, there's all these sources of water, but the road is bad. We do have electricity there, so we do have light, we do have internet now, but when I wasn't going to school, there wasn't any internet, so it's improving, I guess. So that's one good thing. So when I was growing up, I would say I'll start from I am over 25. So over 25 years ago, my mom
January
gave birth.
2nd, 1994. So that makes you about 27. Okay.
Yeah, to be exact. Yep. So in a couple of days, I'll be older than 27. But yeah. So my mom gave birth to me January 2nd, a lovely day that I love so much. So I will start from birth. So my mom was a teenager when she had me, and so I would say, people would say, you're a victim of teenage pregnancy, or you're a product of teenage pregnancy. Well, however you terms it, I was birthed to a teenage mom, right?
How old was she?
She was about 14. Yeah. So my mom gave birth to me as a teenager, and so within that, her life changed drastically because I came into the picture. I am forever grateful for her and my dad for, making me. I am here and I'm thankful. And so with that, I grew up with my grandparents. So my grandma and my granddad, I live in their household until I was 19, and I left for the States for college. So I guess going back to, growing up, I went to my so in Jamaica, you go to primary school, you go to basic school, which is, I guess, kindergarten here or whatever. And then you go to primary, which is like 1st through 6th. So I don't know what's that called in the US, but and then you go to high school.
Elementary and middle school. So 1st through 5th is elementary, and then 6th through 8 is middle school.
Okay, so I go elementary, whatever. Yeah, so I at 7th grade, that's where high school started. And so I went to the Camberwell primary school, Camberwell basic, Camberwell primary, and then I went to the St. Mary High School. So yeah, the St. Mary High School. Yeah, it's the best high school in Jamaica. I guess other person may differ if they went to a different school, but that was my school, and it was the best because I was there. So I'll leave that there. Any comments that you may get in this video after, it's okay. Along with that, I'll say, so, I went to primary school. I guess growing up, I always see my community of, like, I guess you have farmers, so that's like one big career you'll see. Like, a lot of persons there are farmers, and it's not even farmers in the sense of like registered farmers who like get government assistance if, say, a storm comes through or whatever. It's just that that's the only thing the men there are able to do. Well, not all. Let me not say all, but most men there, and the older one, like my grandfather, that's what they do, right? And so they do farming. For my grandma, so I grew up where my grandma owned a shop, and so she would buy things in Anata Bay, take to the community, and sell to the residents there. And then my grandfather, on the other hand, would farm, and my grandma would take that produce to the market in Alabama and sell it there. So it's like, a buy and sell situation, also like a grow and sell situation there. So I grew up with that. I really enjoy that. I love farming today. I love the environment, and it produced food for us, and I enjoy that. I feel like we all need to you may not be able to grow everything you eat, but grow something. It could be a flower, grow something that's good for the environment. So I grew up in that situation with my grandparents. But so as I said, my mom was in her teenage years when she had me, and so my grandparents took me in, and therefore she had the chance to go back to school, which was amazing. So she got to go back to school, finish high school, all those kind of stuff. She went through different programs. She gets certified in housekeeping, stuff like that. She also did like sewing and hairdressing, and you can think of anything that can get you certified. My mom tried it. And so I would attribute a lot of my success or a lot of my determination just to her, meaning in the sense of like, she didn't let being pregnant with me stop her from like achieving stuff. Maybe she wanted to be a doctor, I don't know. But even though that changed, she did try to make sure she was qualified for other things, or she like, get through. It's like, your circumstance may change what you want to do in the future, but the choices you make will create something else, right? And so she did that for sure. And so I would say I think I took that from her, like from birth, where no matter what the situation is, I try to figure out a way. So I grew up like that. So from like basic to primary school is pretty easy. I would just walk to school, which is it's not far.
It's miles just from your house to the regular road, right?
Yeah, so it's just like from my house to where the school is, which is like, so I would leave from George's Oak to Camberwell. It's like two different communities. I'll go through one community. So I'll go from where my house is in George's Oak, and I'll walk to Camberwell, right, where the primary and the basic school were. So growing up, like when you're like in basic school, your parents will walk with you to school. They'll drop you off. Then once you get used to it, now you have friends, and you all walk to and from school daily. So I did that every day. There were times when it was raining and maybe a cab would be passing, like a taxi. So I'll be able to go into that car and get a ride to school. And then my grandma would normally come and meet me in the evening if it's still raining. She'd have like an umbrella or like a cloak or something, some plastic bags for my bag and books so that they don't get wet. And so, they would always do those things to make sure that I, are taken care of. And I think those are the things that the choices they had to make. They had to make the choice of like, okay, even though I have the shop to run, it's 3:00. I gotta go get my grandchild from school. So they made those sacrifices, those choices to ensure that I was able to go to school and come back home safely. And even though it's a rural area, people still try to keep their kids safe. Like, imagine you're walking and there's no house along where you're walking. It's just like trees and bush. Anything can happen to you. So no parent want to leave their child out for that. And so, going to primary school was, pretty basic, pretty easy. But yeah, so in primary school, I would have run at like our sports day and stuff, but like, nothing serious. But after sixth grade, in sixth grade, we would do like an exam. And I gotta say this. So it's from, people may say like, where did you develop running, or where did you develop these kind of skills? A lot of my skills and a lot of my things, I was born with them, in the sense of like, I just did them for fun. And then when I got to high school, I realized, oh, I can do this thing, and I can actually, create into a skill or into something that's going to make me successful in one area or the other. And so after sixth grade, I did, so back then it was called GSAT. And so with that, we did that exam. You did a bunch of different things just to say if you're qualified enough, or if you're ready to move on to the higher level, right? And so I did those, and I passed for the St. Mary High School. And so I got to St. Mary's High School in 2007. Wow. And September 07, my first grade 7. And so we have this thing. Most people who went to in my batch, we say '07 to 11, meaning so '07 we start grade 7, and then 2011 we graduate from grade 11. So it's like, you know, that those numbers are consistent. So I went to high school in St. Mary's. My first year I was just trying to figure out high school. You know, it's like figuring out anything new. You're like, what do I do? You know, but one thing I gotta say is that, you know, going from primary school to high school was a challenge, and not because of school or not because of the work or whatever, right? But as I told you before, I am from a rural area, right? So let's get into that a little bit. So I would have to wake up in the morning, and this is grade 7. I was 11, well, 12, yeah, about 12 years old. So I'd have to wake up in the morning at 4:30 a.m. every morning. And the taxi I took to school, it would leave at 5:30. So I have 1 hour to wake up, shower, eat, grab my stuff, and do whatever I have to do in the morning, and get on that taxi to go to school, right? There wasn't no school bus, so no school bus coming to pick you up. You gotta get on that cab with all the other passengers who are going to the market, going to work, wherever people are going from that rural area. You get into that taxi and you go. One of the funny thing is, so I'm skinny. I was always skinny, and so I would sit right beside the driver, and that was like my fun spot. And so I'll give you a picture. So, you know, cars have the front seat, the driver's seat, and then the back where you have like maybe like 2 persons can hold, probably, or 3. So in Jamaica, and then you'd have the trunk where like you can put like your bags or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so think of like a I think it's called like a wagon. I don't know what the model is. I don't know. I don't know cars, sorry. But anyway, so the driver would be here. I'll be right beside the driver. You'd have the gear stick and everything right beside me there. And then on the front seat where like a one person should be, you would have one person closer to me, one person closer to the window, and in that person's lap would be somebody at the window. There would be 4 persons at the front, along with the driver, make 5, right? And if you think about the middle, the back part now, you would have, I'll just give you a rough estimate, maybe 8 people, maybe, well, 4 sitting down and maybe 3 in the left, so like maybe 7 people sitting down there. And in the trunk where you think is only luggage and stuff should go, you'll have people there too, right? You'll have people there sitting. So, because we all had to get to Anata Bay at a certain time to get to our different schools and work and whatever. And so we made it happen. Yeah, a car like that, exactly. And so we made it work in the sense of like we had to, you know, sit in each other's lap, you know, you carry this one because if the car leave, then they're going to be late for school. And so this is 5:30 in the morning. We get to Nata Bay maybe 6:30. So I mentioned earlier, the road is very bad. And so
by very bad, she means it's no more than 10 feet wide. It's dirt and rocks, and it's on the top of a hill. So if you go over the hill, this is supposed to be a 2-lane road. So cars have to come in both directions. How they gonna fit? I don't know. But if you make a mistake and go over the side, you're down in the gully.
If you go too far, yeah. So you know, we would leave at 5:30. We'll get to Anata Bay in an hour. But then the thing is, the distance, if the road was good, it's like a 20-minute drive. So imagine being on a 20-minute ride and it takes you an hour. It's like being stuck in traffic, but there's no traffic in front of you. It's just, you're just moving slow because the road is bad and the car is full. And then one of the worst thing is, let's say you're someone carrying someone else in your lap and your legs start to cramp. You're going to be cramped for 40 minutes or 50 minutes before getting where you're going. You get out of the car, you got to be standing and holding on and trying to like stamp your legs to get that like little feeling out of your legs. That was fun. We enjoyed doing that every morning. You would know, okay, who's going to be the first one to cramp up when you get to the destination. So that's, you know, 5:30, get there by 6:30. So my high school is in Highgate, which is in another town in St. Mary. And so approximately like a 40-minute drive to school. So get there 6:30. You may have you'll wait a little bit for another car again that's going that direction, right? And so it may take you 20 minutes to get a car that's ready. It may take you 10. It just depends on whatever it is. So, a 40-minute drive, you get to my high school. So typically I'll get to school around 7:30 most morning, maybe a little bit later or a little bit earlier, depending on how fast I get a new cab in Anata Bay. So, we get to school. So as I was mentioning, that going to high school my first year was hard, but it wasn't because of the schoolwork or whatever. That was hard too. I guess, you live in primary school, you're doing five subjects, now you're doing 14. You're like, what the hell happened? And you have assignments, you have all these things to do, but at the same time, or you do 15 probably. And so moving from 5 to 15 is a lot, but the worst part for me was not the work, it was getting to and from school. So I would, school go from 8:30 to 3:00. And then from 3, you may have extra activities or whatever you may be doing. But my first year, I was like, I'm not joining anything. Like, I gotta get home. Like, if I don't get to Nata Bay by 4:00 or whatever, I'm gonna be there. So let's say I leave school 3:00 right away, and I get to Anata Bay, say 4 or 4:15, depending on how fast I get a car or a bus or whatever to go to Anata Bay. I get there, and guess what now? You have all these people who are coming from work, and so the taxi drivers are going to carry the elderly people, or the people who are paying more money than the students, right? Because they want to make more money for their trip. And so students got to pack in the trunk or go into somebody's lap or whatever. So now you get to Anata Bay, I'm standing there. You're waiting. And then I get there at 4:00 and I'm not reaching home until like 7 sometimes, right? So imagine that wait of like just waiting to get to your house. You may be hungry, you may be tired, whatever the case may be. And so that was my challenge. Getting to and from school was just hectic. So to get into some more of like, I guess you asked like, oh, I got into track and all these things. Yeah. So
before you do that, you talked about your mother, your grandparents. What was the relationship like with your father?
I beg to differ that question.
Okay, moving on. So
yeah, I wish not to comment there. We had our ups and our downs. I wish not to say anything about him. He's a father, and that's it.
Okay. All right. So let's go. How did you get into track? We just wanted to paint that as an obstacle also that you had to overcome. But let's go. How did you get into track?
Yeah. So I would say grade 8. So 8th grade. So our school always have like sport day, right? And so I ran at sport day, but I just ran because I was like, oh, I'm gonna represent my it's like, so we have houses, like you have like different colors you represent or whatever. And so I was gonna represent my house and my color and everything. And so I ran. And I was able to kind of keep up or be good with the persons who were on the track team and they were training. My I guess my coach then, Mr. Campbell, he was like, oh, you should join track. I was like, okay, but not really being I'm gonna join it, like just okay because a teacher speak to you, you're like, oh yeah, but deep down I'm like, whatever, like I'm not coming to like sweat all day and whatever. But I don't know. I was thinking about it over and over. And I had family members and friends who were like, oh, you should do a sport in school because, sport can get you for far. And so I was like, okay. And so I did netball, and netball was like a team event. Like it's like similar to basketball, but like you don't bounce the ball or anything. Only American don't play it, but if you go to Australia or New Zealand or the Caribbean, we do play netball. Only females play too. So that's one thing. I played out for a little bit. And then I was just like, I don't know. I just started like, okay, I'm going to go to track I went to soccer training for a little bit. And those girls were a little bit too rough for me. And I was like, not coming back. So I didn't go back after that. But then I went to track practice. And so I went to track practice and it was fine. It was like, okay, I can do this. But little did I know that when you're new to track, they kind of give you the easy stuff, you know? They don't want to scare you right away. They give you the easy stuff so you keep coming back. And so I went to track some part in grade 8. And, I just, I keep going to training. And what was even more challenging than the practice itself was we'll go to school from 8:30 to 3. We'll go to practice from 3:30 to say 5:30 or whatever, right? And as I mentioned before, to get home was a struggle. If I leave school at 3, I'm getting home at 7. Can you imagine leaving school at 5:30? What time will I get home? 11 sometimes. So that was another challenge. And so, I did that, and in grade 8, honestly, I would lie. I would lie to my coach that I'm not feeling too good today, so I'm not gonna come. Because guess what? I'm thinking about, if I go to practice today, I'm getting home at midnight and I have 3 assignments to do. I have all these things. I want to get my assignments done. And so what I did, I differ from track. I went home, do my assignments, do whatever project I had to do, study, and then go back to school early in the morning again.
How did Dylan help you with that?
So I did that for a while, not going to practice. But then I went to so for track you do like championships and stuff. And I went to our first like Eastern champs, and I didn't do good. And I was upset. I was like, I couldn't make the final. Everyone around leave me. Like, I was like, whoa, what is this? And so I was like, no, not gonna happen again. And so in grade 9, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go to practice every day. I'm gonna figure this out. And so I start going to practice every day. And that leads me, so Dylan is my cousin. He passed last year. But yeah, so he's my cousin, and what he did changed my life, and will always change my life. So, as I mentioned that, going to practice, I'll get home late in the night. And so we had 1 or 2 cab that actually passed my house. If you miss those 2, you're actually gonna have to get a cab that's gonna take you to where my primary school was. So I told you I walked from my house to my primary school before. So now that if I miss those 2 cab I mentioned earlier, then I have to get any other cab that's only going to go to my primary school. They're not going to go any further. They may go a little bit further, but not too far. And so that's where Dylan comes in. And not just there, like from I was little, Dylan was always in my life. Like he would always, be around and stuff. But I think sometimes we don't remember those things because we're too young to like understand stuff. But the older I get, he was always there. And I guess like the big moments I can remember is just being going to training and coming home late. And so let's say the cab, wherever the cab drops me off, it doesn't matter if it's close to the Dylan's house, close to the primary school. So at a crossroad is like where like a little town is. And so like at the crossroad or whatever, I had a cell phone going to high school. So I could call him and be like, okay, I'm coming up with X driver or whatever, right? And he'd be like, okay, how far are they going? I'm like, I'm not sure. Maybe crossroad, maybe primary school, maybe at your gates or whatever, right? And so wherever they're gonna be, he would be there waiting for me. And I'm talking about night after night after night, 5 days a week. He will be there waiting. And what he did, he would walk with me from wherever that car dropped me off and take me straight to my house. You'd think, okay, it's late in the night, after 11 or whatever, he's gonna rush back to his house or whatever. No, he would actually stay with me. So normally I get home, my first thing I do was, 1, I put on my bag, take off my shoes, not even take off my uniform or anything, because we wear uniform to school. I would just go to the kitchen and try to get something to eat because I'm like, I'm starving from practice. Like, I need food. And so I go to the kitchen, I get something to eat, and I would share 2 plates. I'll share one for me, one for him, because he walked with me, unless he's like, oh no, I'm full or whatever. And so we would sit and would eat, and then I'll open my backpack and I'll start doing assignments. remember I said I reach home like after 11 in the night, 11 p.m. Not let me be clear, 11 p.m. in the night. So it's dark out. It's almost midnight.
And you
And
still had to wake up at 4:30 the next day, right?
yeah, yeah. So Dylan would be there with me. I think about it and I'm like tearing up a little bit, but I'll be fine. So he'll be there with me. And one of the things that I love so much is that sometimes at high school would write our notes on a separate thing because we're like maybe rushing or whatever. And I would write my notes in a different book or something would happen. And guess what would happen when I get home and I'm like doing assignments or whatever? He would take the book and a pen and transfer my notes from one book to the correct book, right? And he would write it out for me time after time after time. And also, so his mom was a teacher, and so, but she was like a retired teacher when I was going to high school. And so there were times that assignments that I was like, I don't know how to do this. And what he would do, if he can't do it himself, he would take it and bring it to his mom, have her show him how to teach it to me. And then the next day, he will sit down with me and teach me how to do it. And we'll do it together. And, we'll do that math work or whatever the work was that I didn't understand. And we'll do it together. And most times assignments are due like in 2 days. And so if I get it today, we can do it tomorrow because it's due the next day or whatever. So he would always do that. And, when we're done, it's like midnight, right? Or after midnight, maybe like 12:30 or whatever. And so he would leave from my house now and go back to his house. So when he's on his way going home, I'm just like taking a shower and getting ready for bed. I'm going to bed like 12:45 or even 1 o'clock, right? I go to bed at 1 and I have to be up by 4:30 again.
Two
So
things.
4:30.
Oh, go ahead.
I want to say 4:30. So my grandfather, he was my alarm clock. So at 4:30, when my phone would alarm, I would put it on snooze and be like, stop your noise, it's not time yet. But then my grandfather would come in, knock on the door. Hey, it's time to wake up. And so normally I'd be like, okay, yeah. And he would just like leave my room and stand in the next room and give me like 5 minutes. And then he'll come again. And he'll be like, get up now, you're going to be late. And now he's not leaving until I get up. And so that was my alarm clock. And that went on from 7th grade all the way. So like in high school, we did 7 through 11. And then I did 12 and 13, which are like advanced grades. Mm-hmm. So from like 7 to 13, he was my alarm clock. And then in college, my first year in college, it was also my alarm clock. I was like, hey, I got to wake up at 4. Can you wake me up? Because I have to go to the boot camp or whatever the case may be for training. And he would call my phone in the morning and wake me up. So going back to high school, though, he would wake me up at 4:30 in the morning. And I have to get ready again, get ready for the car by 5:30. And the same routine continues. What were you going to ask me, Javon?
So 2 things I had to ask. One, first of all, it's a lot to listen to. So I could just imagine as a kid, going through that, it'd have been easy to just give up, or it'd have been easy to skip school, or it'd have been easy to go to school, but then not participate in any sports because like you said, you're worried about, hey, if I leave school at this time, it's going to take me this time. Plus I still have my assignments that I had to do. I still had to study for tests. So you really had to balance all your activities in how to do time management, how to be a student and an athlete from an early age, how to overcome the terrain, driving through the different rural areas as you describe it just to get home. But when you get out the car at nighttime, you said Dylan is waiting for you. What is some of the things that he would say to you when you get out the car, and what would he do to you before you guys start walking? Like, what would he do when you get out the car?
Yeah. So first thing, he would take my backpack and he'd give me a hug. And so I have pet names. And so he'll be like, Stinger, you're good? And we're like, yeah. And maybe I'll be like, no, I'm tired. Or I'll be giving him all my complaints. But he would take my backpack and he would give me a hug and we would start walking.
And how did that
And
make
when
you
we were
feel?
walking,
Oh, go ahead.
sorry,
And when you were walking,
when we were walking, he would just go ahead and be like, how was your day? How was school? How was track? Like asking me these things. And I'm like reliving my day, telling him like what happened and stuff. And then, I'll be like, what did you do? Like, what was your day like? And we'll talk about each person's day as we walk along.
and how did that make you feel? Just just that little moment. And you get the car, you're like, "Wow, go on, sting up, and then you take your bag and you say, how did that make you feel? Going through everything you had to go through just to get back home that day.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the best part of my evenings every time. Meaning, I already exhaust all my energy. Now all I want to see is my bed, but I have to walk a mile or whatever the distance is, right? And just the fact that he was always there and he would do the same thing. It's not like he would pretend to hug me today and then not hug me tomorrow. No, every day, every night, he would take my backpack, give me a hug. How are you doing? What's up? What y'all deal with? And that just show me that I am loved. Despite what's going on, there are people in my life who loves me. And so that was a motivation too. He was sacrificing his sleep, his time with his family, because he had kids. So his family just to come help me, right? He had a son and a daughter, 2 kids, and he would sacrifice the time in the night to be with them and his wife to come and be with me and take me home safely. My grandparents are older, right? It would be hard for my grandfather to work all day in the farm and then at night to come and meet me every night. But one thing they would do, they would wait up. They would not go to bed until I get in the house. But the land would be there to walk that distance. And then he'd have to walk the distance back to his house. And so just knowing that he's making that sacrifice for me, and I'm not his kid, I'm only his cousin, I was like, my own father's not doing this shit for me. So therefore, he's doing this. He loves me, right? And he would tell me stories when I was growing up, when I was little. I know the story because of him. So when my mom had me, right, they would make my tea, like the tea that baby drink or whatever. And I never really like milk. Like anything white, I wouldn't want it. Gotta be like dark, like black, like sugar water, whatever you want to call it. Like you gotta be dark looking for me to enjoy it. And when they make like certain like porridge or milky tea or whatever, I wouldn't want to drink it. I'll drink a little bit, but then Dylan and another cousin called Greg, whenever they came by and they would pick me up, even if that tea is cold and nasty, they would drink it for me to drink it. So they would drink some and say, so nice, or whatever they would say in their way. And then now I want to drink it because I'm like, oh, they're drinking it. Like, I want to taste it too. Even though before I was like, I'm not drinking this. And, my uncle told me one time that like, even your nasty little drink, they'll come and just drink everything when you leave it. And I'm like, uh-oh. So like, I grew up in Dylan arm. Like I grew up in his arm where he would come to the house, take me and gone all day with me. And so, growing up, it was always in my life, right? But then the thing that I do remember was him being there, taking me to and from my house. So like when I gotta go home or whatever, right? From track or whatever. And then one of the next thing was that, so for track, we would compete on the weekends. And he would not come to the stadium to watch me because now I gotta do whatever I gotta do, right? But I would get home Saturday night late, and then he would come by either Sunday morning or that same night. And he was so invested. He wanted to know everything that happened. How was your race? What's your position? What you gonna do next time? What did you learn? Like just a different person trying to figure out everything about you. And then that helped me to reflect on the journey, right? It helped me to figure out, okay, I did this, I ran this time, but I didn't start good, or I didn't do this right. And and he'd be like, yo, don't worry about it. Like, next time you'll do better because now you know what you did wrong the first time, right? And so you would always come and ask me those questions.
So I know you said, so I know, he passed. Very unfortunate. But can you tell us the name of a charity that you're working on in his honor?
Yeah. So his full name was Dylan Seymour. And so one of my biggest goal, and it's gonna happen, is to launch the Dylan Seymour Foundation in a couple of years. And this foundation I'm trying to launch is not just because he died or whatever. I mean, his name have to live on, and as long as I'm alive, I will continue to talk about him, continue to share the good person he was. But also through this foundation, I think I'll be able to give back the way that he would want me to give back, meaning he was always there for me, right? And so money was an issue for my parents or whatever, but I didn't feel that because they made sure I had everything. The things I felt was trying to get home, right? Trying to get home when it's dark. And he made those difficult times felt easy because he was there. He would be there to pick me up when I'm feeling weak. And so from this foundation, I want to be able to give back to youths, give back to the younger ones. So like persons going to high school or whatever, or almost going to college, being able to help them with tuitions or books or whatever the case may be. And I went to college under a scholarship, and so trying to show kids that they can achieve whatever goals they want to achieve, as long as they have the right motivation towards it, and then they know who to like help them push for it. Because sometimes you have these goals, but you don't know where to go, what to do with them, how to even get to them. And so having an entity that is there to help coach you and guide you is what this foundation is all about. How can I use this to help these kids achieve their goals, and
So
through his name.
so that's a wonderful thing, guys. I want you to stay tuned to that and give a lot of support to that charity, the Dylan Seymour charity, once it is made available to help people that's come from the same areas like Tanya to have the resources and the availability in terms of funds and just information to achieve more than the average person can. But now